welcome back to another edition of Uncle Ronnie's Stories, the Zombie Chronicles. This one's called Back to Work. No matter how many times Uncle Ronnie left the campfire, his seat was always available when he came back. "What did Aunt Priscilla need?" asked one of his nephews. She reminded me of a promise from long, long ago. Uncle Ronnie took a moment to stare at the campfire before he started again. After having been there several nights in a row, Mr. Behrens told me it was time to get to work. We took the elevator up to his office. He had a nice office. Being the president of ZTV was a good job. He offered me a drink. Me being me, of course, I had to try it. Uncle Ronnie smiled as he finished the sentence. He handed me a drink. "What is this?" I asked. "It's called Fortune. It's our national drink," he paused. "You may want to sip it, as it is unknown what effect it will have on humans. For a zombie, 3 shots of this and you will not care what part of the day you find yourself. We also call it the Purple Angel. Cheers." We tapped glasses. "And?" asked someone on the edge of the fire. "How was it? Was it better than Foskey?" Uncle Ronnie looked up at the night sky. What about the campfire? It was good. It was real good. It was like a purple-colored rum, only about 10 times stronger. And you all know how much I liked rum when I was younger. He shook his head as did others, as he remembered what he and rum had done to the world. One of the younger ones asked, "What do you mean, Uncle Ronnie?" Uncle Ronnie looked at him. "You were about 12. When you were a lot older, we'll have another conversation." Mr. Behrens started again after taking a sip of his second shot. "What we want to do is a couple of shows. We want you to host our ZFL championship game." He paused for a moment. "And we want you to do a Man About Town segment. We want you to have fun and show the world all of the interesting aspects of our world." "Let's go," I said. "When is the game?" "Tomorrow night," he responded. "First, we want you to try the Man on the Street show. We saw your work. You have lots of fans here. Let's hit the street running." He was smiling as he finished. "So, you want me to go have fun and tape it?" I have to confess, I started grinning. "Let's have some fun." Mr. Behrens took me down to meet the people working on my show. As we walked to the studio, everyone was in the hallway. I signed all kinds of things. Pictures, posters, coffee mugs, all with my smiling face on them. The director walked up to Mr. Behrens and me. "Uncle Ronnie, glad to have you here." He shook my hand. "Your crew is ready. We have some places lined up. Let's make some magic." Uncle Ronnie shifted in his seat. I can't lie. I could not wait to get started. You know how you get that nervous energy? You just have to look around the campfire? Well, I had enough nervous energy to power an electric company. "Nothing new about that," chimed in Aunt Priscilla as she passed by the campfire. Uncle Ronnie grinned. "Very true. But now I had a way to use it." As soon as we hit the street, the camera started rolling and I was on full speed. As I walked down the street, a crowd started to follow. All kinds of famous people were photobombing in the crowd. Uncle Ronnie stopped for a moment as he looked around the campfire. It was great. I had all these famous people shouting out my name. I think he even heard Einstein's voice somewhere along the way. I even heard some singing. He paused again. So I'm walking down the street with a crowd. I had to play it up. Here he turned to look at all of the adults outside of the campfire. "You all know you would have too," he said. All were nodding their heads yes. Several were even grinning at the thought. "Where should we go first?" I asked. "Take a shot," yelled the crowd. "Then let's go," I yelled. It did not take us long to walk there. As soon as I walked in, the whole bar shouted, "Uncle Ronnie!" 2 waitresses handed me a shot of Fortune. I held up my glass and yelled, "Life is good, dead is better." The whole bar erupted in applause. At that point, Uncle Ronnie held his glass up to those around him as if he was reliving the toast. After finishing a sip from his drink, Uncle Ronnie started again. We did a few interviews and thanked the bar owners. As I headed towards the door, I turned to look at everyone. The night is short and there are so many places to go tonight. Everyone held up a drink as an expression of understanding. As I headed down the street, I took the chance to hit every street vendor. All kinds of great food. Here Uncle Ronnie patted his stomach. He started again. The movies they were showing were all kinds of new features by old stars. There was theater after theater of movies and plays. Most were ones that had never been made in our world. They were only available in Zombie Central on ZTV. In the next block, there were concerts, whether you want classical or rock or country or whatever. All had their own shows going on right around me. Uncle Ronnie paused. I even heard some from when Aunt Priscilla and I were dating. He paused again. You could see him staring at the fire as he remembered. After going past all that, I was directed towards a specific theater. The crew led me inside. The place was dark. I kept looking around to see what it was all about until I found myself down front. All of a sudden, the lights came on and I saw who was up on stage. It was a lot of our relatives, he said as he pointed toward the campfire and those sitting on the edge. Yes, some were better to see once in a millennium. He looked around at the adults. You know what I mean. Whew! He shook his head. In between segments, I got to see some of their commercials. He shook his head. They are everywhere. Here are some of the ones I remember. One had a couple in counseling. The husband to the counselor. It said, "Death until we part. I can't get any deader." Tune in at 8 to see how this real death situation is resolved. The Zombie Family. Oh, the wacky misadventures of the Zombie Family. Welcome to the Zombie Family reunion. Okay, who has Dad's brain again? Zombies. Rich zombies. Intelligent zombies. Is there a zombie pecking order? What is considered to be dead sexy for zombies this season? Our host will give you the ins and outs. The zombie psychologist. The difficulties of dealing with the living. How do you deal with someone who is always trying to kill you? It's kind of like dealing with an exterminator when you are the rat. Tune in to watch the best psychologist on ZTV. ZTV, Zombie TV, all bones, all the time. The preparation channel. How properly prepare brains for that cocktail party so that you too can impress your boss and friends. When you were on BFTV, you were selling peanut butter. What do zombies want? Asked a voice on the edge of the campfire. Uncle Ronnie immediately responded, Uncle Ronnie's peanut butter does not sell so well during most of the day. After all, you know how it sticks to the roof of your mouth. Imagine what it does to a zombie's mouth. I hear there were times their heads would pop off. For them, I had to create something different. Then they told me what they wanted. Popsicles. No brain freeze. Uncle Ronnie's popsicles come in a wide variety of flavors. They have a zombie dance for it. They walk a certain way when eating them as a regular zombie, then come alive as an enhanced zombie. It is great. I knew it, said the same voice, nudging the person next to him. Remember how we said something was up to each other? The other person nodded his head. We saw you with all those shopping carts at Popsicles. Yep, replied Uncle Ronnie. I now have a direct contract so I won't have to make a dent like before. Just before I was about to end the show, I wanted to end by talking to someone famous. When I came across this couple. She was walking away as he sat at the table. I sat down next to him. He didn't even look at me. He just started talking. In the remaining 3 hours a day, I can get more done than most people in 24 hours. Think about it. If you knew you only had 3 hours, what would you do? What would be important? It brings a true passion to all that is done in that time. The heartbreak of the last few moments as you go back. The transformation process would kill you if you were not dead. He shook his head. I'm not talking about the loss of blood, that sort of thing. I am talking about how it crushes your ego. That's why zombies movies they do during the Wait for Dead period. But the feeling of anticipation, when the change starts, he got up and walked away. The camera simply stopped rolling at that point. Everyone around the campfire grew silent. Uncle Ronnie got up, as did most of the folks. Each headed to someone for a moment. It took a while for people to come back to the campfire. Uncle Ronnie was the last one back. When I went back the next day, I had to be there earlier than normal, began Uncle Ronnie. Uncle Ronnie heard someone snap their fingers. I stopped by to see you, said another adult voice. Priscilla said you were not home. That would be correct, replied Uncle Ronnie. I had to get there early for the game. So I take my regular route. As I headed to the studios, I saw billboards with my pictures. There was even my face on the side of a building as a giant mural. He set the post like the mural. Anyway, it struck me as odd As I was going to the studios, everyone was walking regular zombie style. It was weird to see after seeing everyone just the night before as regular people. As I walked, different people came up to me for an autograph of various body parts. That's where zombies lined up for blocks before the studios. When I finally walked into the studio, the director told me that last night's ratings were the highest for any show in ZTV history. He said Mr. Behrens was ecstatic. I told him I was glad it went so well. He held onto his head as he nodded his head. We have another segment to shoot before the big game. He wanted me to go to a zombie amusement park. I said, sure, sounds like fun. Uncle Ronnie looked around the crowd gathered at the campfire. Now, you folks know we try to go once a year to the state fair. It's been almost a year since that last one on those wild rides. We pull up to the park. Everyone is moving slow since they are in regular zombie mode. The crew had a pass to let us in, film, and move to the front of the line. We get inside. The crew starts to film. I looked at the crew. What ride should we go on first? Uncle Ronnie looked at everyone around the campfire. What one would you all want to ride first? Many shouted out the roller coaster. Others shouted out any ride that had water. Uncle Ronnie waited to listen to the two sides. This is just like what they did. Finally, we took a vote, and the winner was the roller coaster. We all climbed onto the ride. It was filled. It took off like a shot. Remember, you did not have to worry about someone getting hurt. The twists and turns were amazing. Going down the last run was the fastest I've ever been on a ride. Period. The funny part for them was switching heads or picking up their heads after a ride. That's why a lot of zombies will put something on their heads to make it easier to spot. We spent a large part of the day there. It was great. As soon as our day ended there, we were back on the road to the stadium. As usual, ZTV was running commercials. We don't always take things seriously. Watch as we capture moments in history our way. Watch the reaction as we photobomb historic events. Welcome to the Stan and Lee Show. Are you being hassled? Does this look familiar? Zombie IRS. There's a saying. The only certainties of life are death and taxes. Well, I'm here to tell you they were correct. Welcome to the ZIRS. Zombie IRS. He starts to laugh evilly. I'm here to tell you what you owed up there, you owe down here. You could have a bunch of zombies walking around. Two are seated at a desk. You owe an arm and a leg. The other one grunts. Here, take. At our agency, we will limit the damage to only a couple of fingers. Call now. When we arrived at the stadium, the first thing I noticed was the size. It was huge. It looked like two of our stadiums put together. As I walked onto the field, I did a slow spin to see how large it was. I yelled, "Let's get ready to play!" I could not resist. All of a sudden, over 200,000 fans screamed, "Yes!" It felt great. Yo, Uncle Ronnie paused. Now, I need to explain something about how the game is played. The first half was played when they were, well, zombies. When they asked me who would win, Zombie or Bigfoot and Sasquatch, I told them it would be a great game and I would love to be there to watch. Come on, who would not want to watch their old heroes play against the new kids on the block? As I called the game, the first half went real slow, as you can imagine. What was interesting was when someone scored. When someone did a victory dance, the player literally spiked a body part. On one fumble, the defense literally tore the player's arms off the body. The replay showed the player holding the ball and the running back's arms. The first half ended in a 10-7 game. Uncle Ronnie shook his head. It was a real boring game, especially when compared to BFSFL. Uncle Ronnie leaned closer to the fire. Things were about to change. Uncle Ronnie slowly nodded his head. Once again, he reiterated, I would normally not watch halftime unless something special was going on during it. In the BSFL, the cheerleaders played a tough game against each other. Something interesting was about to happen in this halftime, only I did not know it was coming. About halfway through halftime, the entertainment changed from walking slow zombies to what I had grown accustomed to on my previous visits. Halftime came alive. Several well-known entertainers brought the stadium alive. You could see the change happen in the stadium. It looked like a wave. Second half, they were alive. Every famous dead player was out on the field doing things like when they were in their prime. It was every fan's fantasy game. The final score ended at 140 to 130. I got to interview famous player after famous player. You should see the autographs I have in my collection. They would fetch millions. I even have a bunch of limited cards, but that is my rainy day fund. The stands were filled with famous people. It was funny to see certain famous people had painted their bodies to spell out their team's name, or to see them painted in their team's colors. Uncle Ronnie dropped his head down as he laughed about the memory. A niece did not show up to get Uncle Ronnie. A nephew did not show up to get Uncle Ronnie. This time, it was Aunt Priscilla. You made a promise a long, long time ago, she said, looking at him. Uncle Ronnie stood up. He never once took his gaze from Aunt Priscilla's eyes. I never will fail of that promise, he was heard saying as he walked away with her.